Good morning and welcome to the Real Investing Show. I'm Taylor Davis, and this is the Stephen Earp.
Oh, you jumped in. You stole my thunder.
I had
I wasn't
to.
ready. You assaulted that introduction. It was like you just destroyed it. And so it's good to see you, man.
Good to see you, sir.
I love doing this with you. And welcome everyone. If you're watching whatever channel you're watching on, please like, comment, and share. And we talk about on this show, we talk about all things real estate investing, real estate and investing, or investing in real estate, or all things real estate. So we would love to field your questions. If you have questions about real estate, let us know. Put them in the comments or send us a message, and let your friends know. So what are we going to talk about today, Taylor?
Well, we're going to talk about what everybody's talking about, and that's the market.
I know. So
just the market in general, what's going on? What does it look like?
Just for perspective, everyone, today is Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. So let's review a little bit what has happened over the last, let's say, 16 months maybe, or 18 months.
Yeah.
In the market, like interest rates and all that. So you want to give us a quick review of what all has happened and when?
Yeah, quick review. Actually, probably started about 12 months. So if you go back to COVID, everything starts going up. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of moving of money because interest rates are so low, hit record lows. You could get a 30-year fixed rate in the mid twos. And then about a year ago now, interest rates started going up. We started seeing a lot of inflation. So I think it was around May that they started raising interest rates at a pretty quick pace. And then you fast forward over the last 12 months, and we've gone from, an average interest rate of about 3.5% to about 7%. Now, right now they're in the mid sixes to low sevens, depending on what type of loan you're getting and what your scores are. But that's made a huge impact. And what is interesting is it has created kind of a new dynamic that we haven't seen before. It has slowed this demand so much because of the interest rates, because over 50% of homeowners now have a sub 4% interest rate, right? Mm-hmm. So there's no longer really moving just for a want. You're not going to move just to go buy a similar house that's a little newer across town, because you're going to leave a 3% interest rate to a 7% interest rate. So we've seen that because it's not unlike 2008, where there was this massive increase in inventory. We actually still are at a low inventory rate. So what we've seen is, like, historically, in Oklahoma City area, we're going to have 6,000 to 8,000 homes on the market right now.
So we're in, like, 40. If you don't mind me insert something here, just for those people who have not been following real estate for a while, give a look. So in 2008, we had a subprime crash, and basically, overall, there were massive banks that failed, like JP Morgan, and some huge banks failed. 2008, 2009. There ended up being government bailouts. What led up to that was a lot of these lending criteria were getting easier and easier. People were basically giving away loans, and so we
were letting people get loans that shouldn't have been able to get a loan. Like, right. They couldn't afford it, but we let them get a loan, and then that eventually that house of cards came tumbling down.
Yeah, and here's what happened is they start giving out loans quicker and easier. People who were self-employed, quote unquote, they didn't have to verify their income, or they didn't have proof of their income, or they would hear you can get an 80% loan on this house and you can get a second mortgage for 20%. So you literally could buy a house with no money down. You had people all over the place that were, had 5 houses, 10 houses. And as they say, like when the kid at the water cooler or when the delivery boy starts giving you advice to start investing in real estate, that's the time you need to get out of real estate, right?
Yeah. Well, and to make it worse, so we let all of these people that really were borderline qualified or not really qualified get a loan. We also put them in, like you said, the 80-20 notes. That was very common. We also or a lot of people got an adjustable rate mortgage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then what happens is, hey, this payment is nice and low, everything's good. But then the rate adjusted 3 years later, 5 years later, whatever that was. And now all of a sudden that payment went up significantly and they can't afford their home. This happened all at the same time, nationwide, where you saw this massive failure across the nation of all of these mortgages that came at the same time. So then there was this. So the difference between then and now is there was this massive flood of inventory because everyone was trying. Their payment was going up, so they were trying to either sell their home or they lost their home to the bank, and then the bank had to sell the home. So there's this massive amount of inventory in 2000. Compare that to now. We have a very low inventory. We just have very, very low demand right now. Because the interest rates are so much higher. So it's a very different market.
Yeah. And some other things in the market. So there's some major differences in. So first of all, it's nothing like it was then. Some people are talking about how scary this is. The interest rates have gone up and things like that. It's different and it's hard in some ways, but it's nothing like 2008 because there's the inventory. There's not a lot of inventory right now. There are more people looking for homes than there are homes available still. And that's probably going to keep going on for a number of years, 5 years, 10 years. There's a nationwide shortage of housing.
Yeah. And what one of the things that's driving, two things have driven that. One is the lead up until now. And that is starting in 2008 until 2020. We were not building enough houses to keep up with population growth.
Right.
So that's one thing. So that slowly built this shortage of homes. Then now you combine that with you no longer have homes coming on as inventory because people are just going to stay put. And so there's no desire to where 77% of the time someone is going to sell their home and buy locally, right? That's not happening as much anymore because you're just going to make the changes to your home and keep that low interest rate. So it's stifled demand. That's the big difference.
Yeah. Some other differences there are other differences as well in the overall market. So and the reason we're describing the differences is that was like the worst housing crisis that we've experienced in the US, I assume, or in the top 2 at least. So another issue that was happening then, so we don't have big banks failing right now. There are some banks that have failed recently that have hit the news in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but it has to do with the tech industry and things like that. It's not directly related to housing. It's just related to bonds and it's related to the tech industry. There will probably be some more, but it's not directly related to real estate. Back then, the problem was real estate. So that's one issue. Another issue is back then, unemployment was super high. So people were losing everything. But today, unemployment in most of the US is really, really low. I mean, there are baby boomers, something like I heard on another podcast earlier today, something like 10,000 baby boomers per week are retiring right now or something like that. And there are not enough millennials and Gen Xers and Gen Z to replace them all. And so there's a labor crisis right now. I mean, in most cities, every place is hiring. I mean, just go out to eat and see what kind of service you get today compared to 4 or 5 years ago, because they can't hire enough people. They can't hire enough workers.
Right.
So the labor market right now is really good. So what a lot of people are saying is some statisticians that I listen to and economists are saying this is like if it's a recession, it's like a white collar recession, because the labor market of blue collar workers is really strong and is probably going to continue to be strong, which will over time strengthen the middle class. So long term, why are we giving the background on this? We're giving the background to say that what we're experiencing now is not like what we experienced before. And
so you're going to have different problems to solve, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to have to solve these problems in different ways.
Yes.
And I think that it's also important to understand that it's during times like this that you have the greatest opportunities, right?
Yes.
It's during down markets that you actually have the strongest advantage to investing. And
Mhm.
and so it's really important to understand what's going on in the market, so then you can start to dial in on what your strategy is.
Mhm.
With interest rates going where they are, opportunities could be subject twos are an opportunity that they haven't been in a long time.
Mhm.
Um, if you have an assumable mortgage, um,
Mhm.
uh, and or if you are an investor and you can go buy an assumable mortgage, you can go buy somebody wants to sell their property. They want $200,000 for it. It's worth $200,000 as an investor. That doesn't really make sense.
Right.
Here's where it does make sense is they have a $150,000 loan on that
Mhm.
at 3%.
Right.
Well, okay, I can go pay 200,000. I'll give you the $50,000. I'll assume your mortgage, the
Right.
$150,000. Now my payment is half the interest rate that I would get otherwise, or less
Mhm.
than half. Now those numbers make sense for that as a rental, where that
Mhm.
wouldn't have made sense if I
Yeah.
had to go pay $200,000 at 7% interest. It
Yeah.
does under that. So you look for these opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to understand what the problem is and try to find this.
I think there are more opportunities for creative financing deals right now. So, for example, people who bought their home, let's see, people who bought a home within the past 3 years and they have to sell now.
Right.
I mean, unless you got a really great deal on it, this might not be the best time for you to sell something that you bought 2 years ago. Just you probably don't have equity in it. You make,
Here's something that I found very interesting, and I want to share this.
Yeah.
So I look at a lot of different stats every week. We go over that as a team, so we understand what's happening in our local market.
Yeah.
One of the more interesting things that I came across is usually your median days on market and your average days on market are pretty close to the same number. Okay.
Yeah.
So just as a point of reference, an average is if you have 100 houses for sale, you took all 100 houses and you added up all of the prices of those houses and divided it by 100. That's how you get the average.
Mm-hmm.
Median is if you have 100 houses for sale, how much is number 50, right? It's the middle number. Okay. So it's important that you understand the difference.
Right.
Because here's what I found fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Our average days on market, which by the way, during the pandemic and stuff was low. I'm talking sub 10 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we were at like 46 days on market as an average. Okay.
Right.
However, our median days on market was 12. What does that tell you?
Tell me.
Okay, so when you look at that and you go, what does that mean? Well, if that means that what's happening is there is a large group of houses that are coming on the market and immediately selling. They're selling very quickly. And if you go over that 2-week mark and you get past that median, now you're in a group of people that are sitting on the market for a very, very long time. So we're still having a lot of properties that are getting multiple offers. We're still having a lot of buyers that are having to compete with multiple buyers on a property. And it's because all of the buyers are going after the same types of properties. They're going after, if you're a well-priced, well-conditioned home, it's going to sell quick. If you try to overprice it a little bit, it's going to sit there and you're never going to get an offer. And when you see those numbers deviate as much as they are, that's when you start to understand those extremes are happening. Because anyway, that's an interesting fact. So it's important that even as an investor, when you're flipping a house, you want to get every penny you can out of that house.
Right.
One of the mistakes that I think a lot of investors make is they try to push the market, right? So comps say I'm at 250,000. Mine's a nice house. I'm going to try to get 260, right? Okay, that's the wrong approach. If you go in at the 250 mark, you're more likely to get multiple offers that could then bid that up, and you're going to sell quickly. So price it right on the back end in a market like today. Over the last 2 years, I have been telling people, push the market. If it says 250, let's go 260. We've got a lot of demand. We can do this. Now, when you start to see those numbers deviate, you want to be in, there's two camps. and you want to be in the quick
The
camp,
first one, yeah,
not the long one.
yeah.
So
I think that's sharp. So some observations about that from me. I think for one, I think this market means lots of things. And I've said this in other podcasts, but I really like it. First of all, I like the changes because I like thinking about it and trying to figure out how to pivot and things like that. Because that's where opportunities are, right? Because not everyone will pivot very quickly. For example, you're describing how to list your house at a certain price point that's going to sell, what the stand, like, what are the tactics, the strategies involved in that. That's a relatively high level observation from a real estate agent perspective, in my opinion. Like, my experience with agents over a long period of time has been that there are a few agents that are really, really, really sharp, and a whole lot of agents that are not very sharp. And I know that perhaps you're not able to agree with that or disagree with that.
you said it, not me. I'm not disagreeing.
I am not an agent, and so I can say whatever I want. And I think the issue is, let me give you a principle, folks. If you're thinking about buying a house right now or selling a house right now, on let's see, the date is March 22nd, 2023. If you're going to buy or sell right now, I highly recommend find an agent that has been doing a lot of volume. Do not get with someone who's just starting. Do not get with someone that just sold 4 houses last year, okay? Because they don't have the experience needed to get you what you need in this market. You don't want to be part of someone's learning curve in a market like this. Excuse me, I got the allergies going on. So that's one observation about this market. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that's really important. I also think this is another observation, and this is an observation for you, Taylor, from me. I'm an investor, but I'm not an agent. So this is my amateurish observation for you. I believe there is a huge opportunity for you in this market to continue to grow and establish your real estate team, because I predict that there will be a lot of agents that end up getting filtered out of the market over the next 12 to 18 months.
There will. It's like there was in the last crash.
Yeah.
And it got, we had this massive increase in number of agents, over the last 2 years. I mean, probably a 20% increase in our area of number of agents.
Yeah, because the market is so high, all you have to do is list a house and it sells. Well, you don't have to have skills as an agent.
Right.
When all you have to do is get the house and list it and it sells. Like, you have to have exactly zero skills. And so now to be an agent, to make it, you're going to have skills. How have you seen, and you don't have to go into detail or whatever, but how has this impacted your team right now? What's the market doing currently right now in our area?
The market in our area is down 35%. So when you look at last February to this February, we're down 35%. That's a pretty significant increase. And like I said, in the past, when you see the number of sales drop, you typically see the number of inventory going up. Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting is we've seen the number of sales drop, and we've seen the number of inventory actually tick down a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it is a unique situation. Basically, people that have to sell are selling, mm-hmm. And people that, for the last 2 years, there's been a lot of people that were like, I might want a different house. This is a good time to do it. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. And because they could sell at a high number on their house and they could get a low interest rate, and it was great. There were unique challenges with that as far as multiple offers, and it was very combative. Yeah. But now you don't have the want to sells anymore. You really are going to focus on your need to sells. And I think as an investor, you have to understand that opportunity, and so you need to go where people that you're going to need to target the need to sell people. The other opportunity that I think is out there is we are in this train. There's always a lag time between what's actually happening and what the general public believes is happening, right?
Mhm.
And so while a lot of people understand the interest rates are there and everything, you still have a lot of sellers that think that this is a really strong market and that they can push the house and they can, because they look and they go, well, 6 months ago, my neighbor down the street sold blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And that's not really the case anymore. The market has shifted. And so I think you're going to have a lot of people that don't have an agent that's really telling them what to do and coaching them and giving them
Mhm.
these numbers to make decisions with. And so what's going to happen is I think you're going to have a lot of expireds happening, going back to the days on market ticking up, that median staying low. There's a lot of people that are going to be expiring. And, that is a shift of mindset, especially if they're in a need to sell position. They expected to sell in 2 weeks and it's been 6 months.
Mhm.
That is potentially a motivated person. So if you can start focusing on some expireds, I think that there's going to be an opportunity there over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, that's a good thought. So some other observations I've had on the market. I know you're fixing and flipping a few houses.
Yep.
You're doing some rehabs. I think, and I did a few rehabs last year and some wholesales as well last year. I'm thinking that in a market like this, unless you're watching it really closely or unless you get a super, super good deal, like fixing and flipping might be a little more risky right now. Unless you can get rid of it in 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. Like I would probably be hesitant to buy a house that I'm going to rehab with the idea that I need to do 3 or 4 months of construction and then get it on the market and then. And if it's going to take me like 8 months to sell it, I would be a little nervous about that. Do you think my feelings on that are founded, or do you think that's overly?
Okay, so the answer is I don't know. I think that there's a reason that you have those feelings, and I think they're founded in what if what happens in '08 happens again, right? And that you start to see those prices drop. I went in with, because when you buy it, you're assessing it based when before I enter a deal, I know what I'm going to sell that for, right? And so if you're in a stable market or an appreciating market, you're good. It's your concern is, are we going to have a depreciating market? So with supply and demand, obviously we've seen the demand drop, right? I mean, we have 35% fewer sales happening, so demand has dropped. What's interesting though is supply has dropped equal or greater to that number. So we're really seeing prices stay about the same. Like they've ticked down a little bit, but when you look at the graph, they haven't ticked down any more than normal seasonality. You always have some seasonality to a year, and it kind of does this graph. And it's really staying within that. So that's why right now I feel comfortable doing flips. I just started one that's going to be about a 6-week project, and I just contracted on one that's going to be probably an 8-week project. That said, in 3 months, I may come back and go, you were dead right. But as I'm looking at the numbers right now, I think that the supply and demand are staying on the same course. It's dropped. Both have dropped. But without that inversion of more supply than demand, you're not going to see that price dip significantly. The other piece to it is that gives me a level of less concern. I probably would not be flipping on the coasts right now. I would not be flipping in more volatile areas.
Not in big cities like Austin or like the places that have had massive appreciation.
Yes. Oklahoma City in this market is the 6th fastest growing city right now. There's a massive population migration. And so that will help insulate because it's going to keep more demand there as people are moving here. So that to me helps offset that a little bit and makes me feel a little bit more secure with my local numbers. Nationwide, I mean, I think you just got to look at your local numbers, and that's the important. Don't make decisions based off nationwide numbers. Make decisions based off your local numbers.
Yeah, no, that's good. Good word. Any other thoughts about the market? I know we're going to have to go here pretty quick.
Man, there's always opportunity. find those opportunities. I think creative financing is a huge opportunity right now.
Yeah.
I think expireds are going to be an upcoming opportunity. Hate to say this, but like divorce rates are much higher right now than they have been. Like at COVID, they kind of spiked, and so you're starting to see like that's another lead source that you can kind of look into, because a lot of times people have to sell. So you're looking for people that need to sell, not want to sell as an investor.
Good word. Yeah. Good word. Well, I've enjoyed thinking about this a lot. Maybe the next one we can talk about what we think about. What we're doing really is we're reflecting on the past, we're sharing what we're doing in the present, and we are
guessing at the future.
And we're guessing in the future. Because you have to make decisions today based on what you hope happens tomorrow.
Right.
In the big picture, though, we have like for over 100 years in the U.S. and nearly every market, real estate has kept pace with inflation or has surpassed it. So real estate is still a really safe investment in the long term. So one thing I would say to any of you looking to get involved in real estate investing, if you look to hold something for more than like 5 or 6 years, I don't think there is a danger in whatever you're buying, or just don't stretch yourself too thin. Make sure you have money in reserves that you can do repairs for capital expenses, like if the heat and air goes out, if the roof goes bad and your insurance doesn't cover it all, like make sure you put money back to cover a lot of that, like your insurance deductibles, for that hot water tank that costs a lot more now than it did 5 years ago. So that's my encouragement for those of you looking to get involved in real estate investing. This is a good time to do it, because a lot of people are going to be backing away from the market. So I do recommend, if you've been thinking about getting involved in real estate, this is a good time to do it. Just, do your best, maintain your job. Don't expect to jump into this and like replace your full-time income. But yeah,
I do have one more. If you're doing a flip right now, I would, to your point, I would make sure that it's something that you're willing to hold, because if like I'm not flipping any properties that I wouldn't be willing to hold and have I want multiple exit strategies. Now my goal is to sell this and make X profit. And if I don't, here's my backup plan. So
I think that's good. Yeah.
So be sure to have that extra exit strategy.
That's a good strategy. And that's a good strategy, I think, here in Oklahoma, especially. In some places, you might have a market that's like, it might be hard to do that,
Yeah.
It might be hard to find a property that you could either flip
do both
or rent.
Right.
But yeah, holding on to property longer term, I don't think you're ever going to lose. So for the most part, if you just hold the property long enough, you'll eventually get your money back out of it.
Guys, thanks for watching the Real Investing Show. Like, follow, share.
Yep.
Did I nail it?
Yeah, good job, man.
I'm taking your fire today.
I know. Thank you guys so much for watching the Real Investing Show. We'll see you next time.